Well, there was a list. You don't like it to be called an enemies list, and it had about 60 names, and about 20 have had an adverse action. So those are, I think, pretty clear.
Morale has never been better. When I go across the country and I talk to the line agents and the intelligence analysts and professional staff, I travel around the country, I talk to our state and local partners. They tell me one thing resoundingly: we're finally going to do the work that we were asked to do with the resources that we needed to get the job done. And that's what this administration is focused on. And that's why you're seeing the results.
Which we also talked about when you were here. I think you indicated that you understood that a witness in the grand jury is free to discuss afterwards whatever they told the grand jury. And you then went on to suggest, saying, I can't go into court orders granted by the D.C. District Chief Judge, and you want me to violate a court order. In those remarks, you fairly plainly suggested that there was a court order of some kind that somehow restricted or limited your ability to discuss your own testimony.
If you believe no public official should ever be above tough questioning, then today's hearing deserves your attention. What unfolded between Senator Sheldon Whitehouse and FBI Director Kash Patel wasn't just another political exchange. It was a high-pressure test of transparency, accountability, and public trust. Some of the toughest questions were asked, and not every answer satisfied the room. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe to Blue Flash, hit that like button, and turn on notifications, because we bring you the biggest political moments with thoughtful analysis every single day.
Director Patel, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
When you were here for your confirmation, we talked about your so-called enemies list. It appears to me that there have been adverse actions of various kinds taken against about 20 of the 60 people on your enemies list. You've been in office for 7 months. At that rate, you've got 14 months until you've hit all 60. Can you explain that?
Again, that is an entirely inaccurate presupposition. I do not have an enemies list. You can continue to characterize it as you wish. The only actions we take, generally speaking, for personnel at the FBI are ones based on merit and qualification and your ability to uphold your constitutional duty. You fall short, you don't work there anymore.
Well, there was a list. You don't like it to be called an enemies list, and it had about 60 names, and about 20 have had an adverse action. So those are, I think, pretty clear.
Morale has never been better. When I go across the country and I talk to the line agents and the intelligence analysts and professional staff, I travel around the country, I talk to our state and local partners. They tell me one thing resoundingly: we're finally going to do the work that we were asked to do with the resources that we needed to get the job done. And that's what this administration is focused on. And that's why you're seeing the results.
Grand jury testimony, which we also talked about when you were here. I think you indicated that you understood that a witness in the grand jury is free to discuss afterwards whatever they told the grand jury. And you then went on to suggest, saying, I can't go into court orders granted by the D.C. District Chief Judge, and you want me to violate a court order. In those remarks, you fairly plainly suggested that there was a court order of some kind that somehow restricted or limited your ability to discuss your own testimony to that grand jury. Since then, that chief judge that you mentioned, Judge Boasberg, has written, and I'm quoting him here, Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 6E allows witnesses like Patel to divulge the contents of their testimony, meaning that nothing was preventing him from doing so before the committee. Can we confirm here today that there is no court order of any kind that limits your ability as a witness before the grand jury to discuss your own testimony to that grand jury?
We can confirm that pursuant to my action that grand jury testimony has been released, the transcript.
Let's, in what forum was it released, may I ask?
Publicly.
Okay, we'll check on that. The FBI does background investigations. In the case of a U.S. attorney, Jeanine Pirro, it has come to light that in a civil proceeding, that Fox News executives, prior to her confirmation, called her, I'm quoting here, a reckless maniac who makes, quote, insane comments, and said, I don't trust her to be responsible, and noted her penchant for what they called random conspiracy theories on weird internet sites. My question to you is, did that turn up in her background investigation?
For any background investigation, Senator, we do not discuss those publicly. And for every background investigation, when there's an adjudication, it is not made by me. It is made by the career professionals who run the inspection division and background check system.
Do you know if that information was found? You see, we're an oversight body here, and there are really three possibilities here. One is that the FBI background investigation didn't find that stuff. That's worth noting because these investigations, full field background investigations, are supposed to find that stuff. That's possibility one. Possibility two is that the FBI did in fact find that information and then did not report it to the administration or to the committee. And the third is that you found it, you reported it to the administration, and they went ahead with her nomination knowing that she had been described as a reckless maniac who made insane comments, who wasn't trusted by colleagues to be responsible, and who had a penchant for random conspiracy theories on weird internet sites. Are you saying that this committee does not have any authority or reason to look into which of those things is true?
This committee can look into anything it wishes. I'm telling you that the background investigations that are done by the HRD division are done by career individuals. They do not report the details of those to me. They adjudicate those independently and individually. That's how it's always been done.
What happened during the pause of FBI background investigations that was alleged in the complaint against you and the FBI by the FBI agents who were terminated? On February 12th, Emil Bovee directed the FBI, quote, to pause any FBI background investigations of Trump nominees until Patel was confirmed, which happened on February 20th, is the general description of what they alleged. Why, do you know, were background investigations paused? Was it so material like this could be scrubbed out of them? And have they been resumed without that pause fully and normally after your arrival on February 20th?
I can speak to the time period since I got there. Background investigations have been ongoing across the board at the FBI.
Why was the pause, do you know?
I was not there.
Wasn't explained to you when you got there? Oh, by the way, boss, they've had an 8-day pause on background investigations. You think that would be something that would be explained to you at some point?
Again, I leave it to the men and women at the HRD division to run background investigations. I do not interfere with them.
I get that. But what I don't get is whether you were told about that pause, and why would you not be told about that pause?
I don't recall that, sir.
All right. The allegation also relates that part of the employee review of senior staff was whether or not they voted for Kamala Harris in the 2024 election. Since when is who you voted for a proper question for agents to be asked?
I don't know what allegation you're referring to, Senator. If it's from an ongoing matter in litigation, I can't discuss that. But what I can discuss is I can only speak to the FBI's background investigations. There are other background investigations conducted across the government. I can only speak to mine.
So just to clarify, I'm not talking about the FBI full field background investigations. I'm talking about internal employee reviews for promotion, for termination, for job actions of various kinds. And my question to you is it now the policy of the FBI to ask agents who they voted for, and since when is who agents voted for a proper question for the FBI to ask?
Taking those in reverse order, it's not a proper question, and it's improper to allege that I'm doing that. And also at the FBI specifically, under my leadership, we do not ask who you voted for. And just one correction for the record, if I may, Senator, it's Security Division that runs background investigations, not HRD.
Back with us is Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. And Senator, it sounds like there's a new question for confirmation hearings for FBI directors. Will you use the plane for date night?
Yeah, he kind of teed this up for himself, old Patel did. Mm-hmm. He repeatedly, it wasn't just that once, he repeatedly attacked Chris Wray, who, by the way, had done great service to the Trump administration, providing cover for the fake Kavanaugh investigation. So he kind of has been turned on here, Chris Wray. Mm-hmm. But anyway, there's Patel attacking him over and over and over again about use of the FBI jet. So there's the hypocrisy. Then with all these Trump people, there's the entitlement. I mean, this is bling for them. They just want to eat up every executive perk they can get near. And frankly, the more they abuse it, the cooler it seems to be for them. So buzzing around the country in the FBI jet for dates with his girlfriend seems like an okay thing to them. And then what's really cheesy, I mean, the part that angers me here more than even just the waste, is that when he's caught, when he's busted doing something that stupid, instead of owning up to it, he takes it out on a 27-year FBI veteran who runs the Critical Incident Response Group, and he fires that person because his tail, the tail number on his jet was being tracked the way the tail numbers on essentially every jet are being tracked. So there was nothing that the Critical Incident Response Team leader did that was wrong. Patel just needed a fall guy. And I gotta believe that in an organization like the FBI, when you start doing things like that, it starts to poison the agency against you. And more whistleblowers begin to emerge because they know the boss is not competent and not decent and was bad for the organization that they serve and love.
Senator, about those whistleblowers, is someone on the Democratic side of the Senate Judiciary Committee penciling in a possible hearing if the Democrats win back the Senate of all of these people who have been fired in this Trump FBI?
Yeah, and actually we're going to hear from them a good deal sooner than that because 3 senior FBI agents who were fired have filed a civil lawsuit contesting their firing. And as that proceeds, there's going to be the opportunity for discovery. And discovery is always the jewel of litigation.
Welcome back to Blue Flash. No matter which political party you support, one principle should unite every American. Powerful government officials must be prepared to answer difficult questions. That's exactly why this Senate hearing caught my attention. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse came prepared with detailed questions for FBI Director Kash Patel, touching on issues ranging from personnel decisions to background investigations and Patel's previous statements before Congress. Whether you agreed with every question or every answer, one thing became clear very quickly. This wasn't going to be an easy hearing. One of the first exchanges centered around Patel's previous explanation for why he had not discussed his grand jury testimony during his confirmation process. Whitehouse pointed to a federal judge's ruling stating that grand jury witnesses are generally free to discuss their own testimony. He asked Patel directly whether any court order had actually prevented him from speaking. Patel acknowledged there was no court order limiting him from discussing his own testimony. Now, that's significant because elected officials and agency leaders are expected to communicate clearly with Congress. When previous explanations become the subject of later questioning, it's natural for lawmakers to seek clarification. Transparency matters. Another major issue involved what critics have described as Patel's enemies list. Whitehouse referred to names published in Patel's book and argued that several individuals mentioned there had since experienced professional consequences after Patel became FBI director. Patel firmly rejected the characterization. He insisted he has no enemies list and maintained that FBI personnel decisions are based solely on merit, qualifications, and performance. This is where Americans have to think critically. It's easy to jump to conclusions. It's also important to avoid assuming motive without evidence. If personnel actions are based entirely on legitimate performance concerns, the FBI should be able to demonstrate that clearly. If they're not, Congress has every right to ask questions. Oversight is not an attack on law enforcement. It's part of how democracy works. The hearing then shifted toward FBI background investigations. Whitehouse questioned Patel about whether potentially negative information regarding Jeanine Pirro appeared during her background review. Patel declined to discuss the details of any individual investigation, explaining that career professionals, not the FBI director, conduct and adjudicate those reviews independently. That response may satisfy some observers. Others may feel Congress deserves more transparency. Again, that's the balance public officials constantly face, protecting confidential investigative processes while maintaining accountability to elected representatives. Whitehouse also asked about allegations that FBI background investigations for certain nominees had been paused before Patel officially took office. Patel responded that investigations had proceeded normally after he became director, but said he didn't recall being briefed about any earlier pause. Whenever congressional hearings produce repeated "I don't recall" answers, critics often see that as evasive. Supporters may argue it's simply better not to speculate when someone doesn't remember. Ultimately, viewers have to decide for themselves whether those answers were persuasive. The hearing also touched on allegations made in lawsuits filed by former FBI employees, claiming that agents had been questioned about their voting choices during internal personnel reviews. Patel strongly denied that this was FBI policy under his leadership and stated that asking employees who they voted for would be improper. That's an important point. The FBI should never become an institution where political affiliation determines someone's career. Americans expect federal law enforcement to enforce the law impartially. That expectation shouldn't depend on whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, or someone who doesn't vote at all. Toward the end of the discussion, attention turned to separate allegations regarding Patel's use of FBI aircraft for personal travel. Whitehouse criticized Patel's leadership and argued that senior officials should accept responsibility rather than shift blame when controversies arise. Those allegations have also become part of broader public discussion about leadership within the Bureau. Regardless of anyone's political views, accountability should apply equally. As someone who believes in progressive values but also deeply respects our democratic institutions, I think this hearing reminds us why congressional oversight exists. Lawmakers have a duty to ask difficult questions. Agency leaders have a duty to provide clear and honest answers. Neither responsibility should disappear because of party loyalty. The FBI performs one of the most important jobs in our government. Its credibility depends on public confidence. Every hearing like this becomes another opportunity to strengthen or weaken that trust. Americans deserve an FBI that is independent. They deserve investigations free from political pressure. They deserve leaders who communicate openly with Congress. And they deserve oversight that focuses on facts rather than partisan point scoring. This hearing raised serious questions. Some answers were direct. Others left room for continued debate. As more information becomes available, Congress and the public will continue evaluating whether those concerns have been adequately addressed. That's how accountability should work in a constitutional democracy. No matter where you stand politically, these hearings matter because they shape public trust in the institutions that affect every American. And that's why we'll continue covering them here on Blue Flash. If you enjoyed this analysis, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Blue Flash, and turn on notifications so you never miss the biggest political hearings and breaking developments from Washington. I also want to hear from you. Who do you think made the stronger case during this hearing? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's have a respectful discussion. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.